Find $500 to $2,000 in hidden money leaks. Organize your cash flow and create a money system that actually works with the Money Hunt found inside the Smell of Money community. Join today. The link is in the show notes. In the Smell of Money, a school community hosted by yours truly, Lisa Drennon, founder of I Date Money, a wealth activator, creator of the Money Multiplier System. I know what it's like to feel broke. At age 22, single mom, I filed for bankruptcy. For decades, I lived on a restricted budget, saving 30% and not paying attention to my money. In my 40s, I racked up $100,000 and didn't understand what my problem was until I realized money problems aren't math problems. They're relationship problems, because women don't need another budget. They need a money management system that works. That's why every episode and every conversation we have in the Smell of Money community is designed to help you create cash flow, confidence, and wealth. We turn messy money into an organized system so you can make confident decisions to build true wealth. Whether you're a single or divorced mompreneur who simply wants to stop wondering, where did all the money go, and start telling it where to go, you're in the right place. Join the Smell of Money today. The link is in the show notes. If you're tired of feeling shame about past financial decisions, worried you'll never achieve financial stability, and ready for a clear plan to take control of your money and experience true financial freedom, you're in the right place. Hey, I'm Lisa, wealth activator, independent insurance broker, and your guide to rewriting your money story. I learned the secret to creating financial freedom and stability after divorce, and I'm ready to share it with you. If you're ready for steady, stress-free income, clarity with your money, and the confidence to spend without guilt, grab your favorite essential oil, take a deep breath, and let's sniff our way through the smell of money. Is here to tell you what you need to do to get sales flowing, to get that cash flow going so that you can hit your profit margin goals. Tell us what you thought about sales before you started helping people with sales.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa, for that introduction. It is great being here. And I want to start off by saying that for a very long time, I never considered myself to be good at sales. So I started out actually in sales when I was a teenager. Like I was on summer break from college and I got a summer job doing telemarketing and I absolutely hated it. It was the worst job ever. The sales training that I got was here's a script, you can read it, and here's the phone book, and here's a phone, and you can just call people and just read the script, which is obviously the worst way ever to do sales. And everybody hung up on me and it was a terrible experience and I hated it. And over the years, I always hated that feeling that you get in your stomach, that like pit in your stomach feeling where, you're super nervous, you have to call someone, but you really don't want to do it. And you try to invent any excuse possible to not have to do it. So I've been there. I've absolutely been there. And what's interesting is because of the work that I've done on myself and the work that I've done, in corporate positions, I now have 25 years of sales and marketing experience. And I basically taught myself how to get over that awful feeling that you feel. And that's why now I teach other women how to do exactly that.
I love that. And working through our own blockers that help us build that confidence, that help us truly trust ourselves to offer a service or a product in alignment with what it is, like, our core values and our profit margin goal. And when we think about the money stories that we tell ourselves, what are some of the money stories that some of the conversations you had with yourself that kept you stuck? And then you realized one day, wait a minute, I'm reworking this.
Yeah, I love that question. I mean, first, I think a lot of us are carrying around beliefs around money that we inherited from other people. And they're not even necessarily something that we chose ourselves. So taking a look already at that relationship that we have with money. I mean, I know you talk a lot about dating your money, and I think it's a great expression because when you don't have so much attachment, emotional attachment around money, your relationship with money goes so much better, right?
Mhm.
I remember my father when I was growing up, and he was a big investor in the stock market. And if he made money that day, he was in a good mood. And if he didn't make money that day or he lost money that day, he was in a terrible mood. And the fact is that money is a tool. You wouldn't get mad at a hammer because it can't fix your kitchen sink, right? You wouldn't be disappointed with a tool in your toolbox because it didn't do the job you were expecting it to do. And yet we walk around with so much emotional baggage when it comes to money that first we have to really start peeling back those layers. The thing is that when we are having any kind of sales interaction, whether it be putting ourselves out there or through an email or having to follow up with somebody or having a sales conversation with someone, what happens is that our nervous system gets triggered because we're perceiving it as being something that's dangerous. We need to protect ourselves from that. And so it's actually a normal reaction. It's a human reaction. It's like, back in the days when there were tigers, well, we would be running from the tiger, but your nervous system today is perceiving that sales conversation as being the tiger that you have to either fight or run. I think first taking away that level of shame, looking at some of those beliefs that we have. Some people bring such desperation energy into the sale because they need it financially, but unhinging your need for money and the sales conversation is essential in order for sales to feel less cringy. There's a lot of layers to this. There's a lot of layers that needs to be looked at when we start to look at our money mindset, when we start to look at what are the limiting beliefs that are keeping us stuck where we are. And there's a lot of work to be done there. So it's not just about sales.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing that. I felt like you were right on track. I didn't feel like you went off on a tangent. What I love how you had
Okay.
put that connection, like, I date money is all about the relationship we have, and we think about the partnerships that we have, how they thrive. And we come from a business sense of view, like this is how I want it to work. And this is how it's going to. And whatever we set our mind to, that's what happens. And I love how you described it as a tool when, you don't get mad at the hammer if it doesn't hammer properly until it hits you in the thumb because you weren't watching. And this is the key. You weren't paying attention. You're going to get slammed in the thumb with that hammer because, with your money, you're not paying attention to it. And then all of a sudden, poof, it's gone. But when we look at it from the sales point of view, and yes, the layers, I know for me, I had switched my niche 3 times and I was afraid to talk about money and finances because I carried $100,000 worth of debt. At 22, I went bankrupt. And even though I had been in the insurance and finance industry since 1987, I felt like I was not qualified to share how to multiply your money, how to make your cash flow in your business because I carried this debt. And I actually had a coach who told me, "Oh, don't talk about your debt. You'll attract the wrong people." And it really, like, you hear these external validations. And I've worked with coaches who have said, "Well, you don't want to price too high, or, if you want to price high ticket, well, then, just charge X amount of dollars. And all you need is 1 client instead of 10 clients because of the price point." And my whole philosophy has been if it doesn't feel good, if you don't believe in what you're selling, you're never going to be able to sell it. And really listening to yourself and understanding that confidence. I come from a family of entrepreneurs and I focused on my dad's side of the family who I felt took advantage of people. And I didn't understand that my mom's side of the family were also entrepreneurs and were very generous. So why, when I was growing up, did I hone in on the negative and not positive? Human nature, perhaps, but maybe their money stories spoke louder because they always had a lot of money to do what they wanted to do, and then equating that to, oh, I can just make more money and then I'll be able to do more things. Whereas the one side of my family was we make money, we save it, we give some away, we allocate it for trips, we have a purpose for it. We use it as a tool, and that tool helps us to build what we want. Totally ignored that. So when you were establishing your sales, I heard you say earlier that, oh, I read this script and I didn't want to do it. So what was the turning point that clicked for you that said, wait a minute, I don't need this script. This is what I need.
I ended up quitting that job and going back to school. There comes a point in a customer relationship where sales is a natural part of the process, right? I did this also in public relations. And when the campaign is finished, a natural part of the cycle then is to, assess and get their feedback and try to sell them something else. And so it became part of the client relationship, the sale. It was for them because nobody just, serves somebody and then it's like, okay, great, see you later, bye. Like they want to know also what's next for them. So when I was able to transform sales into service, that's when everything shifted because sales have a purpose. I agree with you 100% when you said you can't sell something you don't believe in. I 100% agree with you. I mean, there are people that do it, unfortunately, and that's absolutely how we got this, reputation of this sleazy sales guy who's going to manipulate or who's going to try to push products on you that you don't really want to buy. We've all heard those types of stories and we're repulsed by them. But that's not how good sales go, right? I mean, good sales are I see that this person has a need for something that I can help them with. It's service. And when you flip that switch, that's when things fall into alignment. That's when you can start feeling much better about what you're doing. And then it doesn't become the icky, oh God, I really don't want to have to follow up with this person. I have to say, when I have somebody follow up with me, I'm actually quite happy because usually, I had a lot of things going on. I forgot I was going to get back to the person. I didn't do it. Right. I mean, put yourself in the shoes of your potential customer and what you would want to have if someone were working with you, like on the opposite side. So I always put myself into the shoes of my buyer personas and think to myself, like, okay, would I be turned off by this if this were the sales process? I would. Okay, then that can't be my sales process. What would I want to see? And when you get back in touch with some people, I mean, most of the time, I think they've done studies on this. And I know from my own outreach to people, sometimes it takes 3, 4 times of getting back in touch with someone before you're going to get a response. So if you're only pitching them one time and you're not doing that follow up, you're actually losing out on a ton of sales that you could have just because people got busy, they were maybe out of town or, their dog died or whatever it is. And they had the best of intentions, but you just completely fell off their radar and getting back in touch with them puts it front of mind. So it's in service to them that you're in front of mind. It's not being a harasser or, pushy or annoying if it's coming from a place of service.
Mm. And I think that's the key right there. Coming from a place of service versus, oh, I need to make this sale. I have to pay my rent. So how does one shift that
Exactly.
idea so that they don't lean on that? I need this sale to survive.
Yeah. I mean, the big difference is the shift between survival and thriving, right? I have 6 different revenue streams. So I'm not dependent upon one to pay my bills. I have 6 of them. That's about building financial security, not putting all your eggs in one basket. And that's a totally whole other topic for discussion. But, I do think that when we have that kind of desperation energy, no good is going to come from that. You can't put out anything negative and expect to get back puppies and rainbows. It just doesn't work that way. So you have to put out positivity. And a lot of times that comes from getting into your heart space and really listening and then going from
Yeah. And being bold about what you want and what you don't want, because there's so many things that are not in alignment. And I know when I started online, I got into affiliate marketing, which I love. So I have like 25 different income streams, but they're all things that I support and use. And I've had people reach out to me, oh, will you promote this product on your podcast? And I would never consume that product. No. Well, yeah, you don't have to consume it. You just have to talk about it. I'm like, no, it's not in alignment. I don't sell or promote anything I don't personally use or have used and like. So no, I won't do that. And I see a lot of that in on social media and this even in the school communities where oh you can make X amount of dollars doing affiliates and we'll show you how. And people are spending hours creating these reels with AI to sell these things that they really just want to make money, whether it be 5,000, 10,000, it doesn't really matter the amount, and they get burnt out really quickly. What advice would you give to them?
I think the thing is if you're really looking to make money, don't be an entrepreneur. I mean, there's other ways to make money. You can get a job, like trade your time for money. That's like a much faster and easier and surefire way to actually, make some cash. I think there's a lot of false beliefs now, especially because it's never been easier to create a business, especially an online business. People have multiple online businesses, which, is fantastic. But a lot of people think it's going to be easy and fast. And it is not. It can be easier for certain people. I think it kind of depends on your background, but it's not to deter anyone from entrepreneurship. But don't think you're going to start a business today to pay your bills at the end of the month. Like that's not happening. If there's a huge investment that comes up front from starting your own business. So yes, it's a good long-term strategy, but you probably are going to have to do something else on the side at the same time. So that you're not getting into that place where you're desperate, like we said, and then you're more inclined to accept those types of activities where you would be then, selling anything just to sell
Mhm.
whatever you can. I don't think that's the best way of doing business. I agree with you. You have to stand behind the brands that you're going to promote because it's your reputation that's on the line.
Yeah, and that's so true. And if you refer something to somebody and it doesn't work out for them, they're going to come back to you and be like, "Well, why did you even tell me about this? I invested X amount of dollars and, now I'm out this money." And all programs work. All coaches can help somebody, but they might not be able to help you particularly. And I always tell my clients that come into the Wealth Accelerator, if it doesn't feel like it's in alignment or you don't like something, most likely it's not going to work for you. You can kind of check that out before you actually invest your money. A lot of coaches will be able to give you a taste of what they're doing with all their freebies. And that's basically how they're going to teach you. So I know when I first got into online marketing, it was all about doing workshops and doing 3-day live events, like launching, a 3-day event where you host these webinars. And I was like, I don't, I tried it. I didn't really like it, and then there was the video messaging. And then there's, like the reels where you showcase what it is and then you talk about it and, share your experience. And there's so many different ways that you can showcase what it is that you sell. But like you said earlier, if it doesn't come from a heart of service, it doesn't matter. Because that attitude, that energy shines through and you become unbelievable. And people can sense that just by your body language. And I think that's one of the keys is, I know people, I have clients who will not have a Zoom call for sales. They intentionally say that their Zoom is not working so that they will do a phone call instead. And I didn't like that. I thought it was sneaky. And but the person said they did it that way because they wanted to be able to take notes and they didn't want that person to feel uncomfortable. And I thought, weird. I mean, I don't, it's okay if you take, now we have AI to take notes for us. But if you think about what makes you uncomfortable about sales, in your experience, what's like the most common thing entrepreneurs are the most uncomfortable with?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think the thing is that there's so much noise in the sales space, right? You've got the bro tactics with, the loud and the pushy and the you got to hustle and you've got to get to it. And I think a lot of women really don't resonate with that way of doing things, but they haven't necessarily been modeled another way. And then, there's kind of two I call it a pendulum where women swing between the I'm bulldozing and I'm pushing and I'm a people pleaser and I'm bending over backwards. And then I'm just falling into resentment because I'm doing things I don't really want to do. And what I teach is how to get into that calm middle ground where you don't have to be shouting, but you're also not a doormat. The thing is that there is no wrong way to do sales. There's only what works and what doesn't work. So we have to take away the judgment from that. Some people love the bro tactics and, women with beautiful bodies posing in front of, luxury jets. I'm not personally into that, but, I guess there are some people that works for. But for sure, the thing is you have to find the way that resonates with you that you feel really good about, because then you're going to be inclined to do it A lot of times people, they trip up because they hate it so much. It's like me with my telemarketing job. I hated it so much. I would avoid, I would try to do everything I could not to have to do it. And then you're not getting the practice that you need to get good. There's this false belief that people are either like good at sales or bad at sales, but that's not actually true because it's a skill set and it can be learned. It's just that people sometimes get that icky feeling and then they run from it and they never give themselves the chance to get better or to find something that really works well for them. And so I work with women to help them find the way that they feel good about so that it's compassionate, direct communication that they use instead of, indirect speak, which trips a lot of people up, women especially. It trips. I mean, men speak their own language, so like they're not really concerned with trying to be polite because they don't care. They're just direct, and sometimes women perceive that as being rude, so it's like the opposite. But we've been trained as women to try to soften things because we want people to like us, or we don't want people to, think that we're too ambitious, or that whatever. We're always concerned about what other people are thinking about us. And when we can learn the sales technique where we feel really congruent with what we're doing and also can be very direct in a kind way, then that's when the magic happens for women. That's when you can feel really, really aligned with what you're doing. And then you feel like sales is winning. Like, I love sales. I feel like I'm winning the lottery every time. And it's not just about the money that comes in from the sale. It's also like, oh, wow, this is great. I get to help somebody now. This is amazing. So,
Mhm.
that's something I would say in response to that question. It's really about
Mhm.
finding your path, your way.
Yes. And, gathering the information, gathering the facts, hiring somebody like yourself to help build up that confidence and to have a simple strategy in place to sell the offer, to price it and according to its value. And then really sitting with it and asking yourself, would I buy this? Because you're your best client, right? And if you wouldn't buy it, why would you expect anyone else to buy it? And then thinking, one of the things I hear all the time is, well, people can't afford it. If I price it at this point, and I love when I show them my calculator tool to show them what they need to do to hit their profit margin goal and how many sales they need to make on that one product or offer that they have. They're like, well, that's going to take a long time. I don't know if I could do that. And then they start to rethink, okay, what exactly is my offer? Because if you did really, like, a lot of times you'll go through sales pages and you'll see people break down the price. Like, this is a $47 value, 97 value, 197, total value $10,000. Your price today, 997, only for the next 24 hours. Something about those 97s. So how does that strategy help us feel more confident in sales?
Yeah, well, that strategy, I think it was Russell Brunson that kind of developed that. I mean, he's a genius when it comes to marketing and sales. So I'm not going to, downplay that. I personally don't like the whole scarcity mindset tactic to get people to buy because it's very nervous system triggering. But it is a false belief to think that people don't have money. That's not actually true. And in fact, people who have the greatest transformation are the people who didn't have the money and found a way to pay for a $10,000 program, because they had to figure out the how after they committed to saying yes. I think the thing is that what is it that you're solving? What pain are you helping eliminate or alleviate for somebody? Because if the pain is big enough, people will pay whatever you ask for. And I think one of the real issues is that women get wishy washy when they're talking about their offers because they're using this permission seeking type of language to downplay stuff. So then, I had a coaching session with a lovely woman. She's absolutely lovely. And I was asking her, give me your elevator pitch. We're in an elevator. You've got to tell me about your thing. And I was like, at the end, and she was like, well, and I do this and then I have this thing and it's like this. And I was like, wow, that was one long elevator ride because she was going around in circles for basically 6 minutes telling me what her offer was about. And I was like, we need to really hone in who is your buyer persona. I think one of the issues too is that people don't want to eliminate anybody. So they get really general, they get really vague, and then they're nothing to nobody. And they're afraid of getting super targeted with their niche because they're like, oh, but my offer could be for all these other people. Yeah, but if your offer doesn't speak to a specific target audience, nobody is going to buy from you. That's just the
Mm,
way it goes. So you need to really be thinking about what is the pain that is going to push people to pay for what it is I have? What is it that I'm bringing to the table that they need to solve that pain?
mm.
And then, of
Thank
course, a pricing strategy is a pricing strategy. And there's a lot of work that goes into that. But it's not just picking a number out of a hat because everyone's saying it should be $97. Like, at least I don't think that's the good way to do it. But yeah.
No, you definitely have to price it what its value is. And I appreciate you sharing your expertise. Tell us, how can the audience connect with you and learn more about sales?
So the best thing to do is to join my school community, which is called Money and Growth for Women. So it is a very tight knit group of some amazing, amazing women, very, very active. I'm very select with the people that I allow into the group because I don't want it to be spammy. It's not about self promotion. It's really about having conversations and collaboration. And I have elaborated a free school course called Selling for Women Who Hate Sales. That is the point of entry to starting to learn about new ways of doing things. June 10th, about permission signals. So, like I said, I think a lot of times women are subconsciously unaware of some of the ways we show up. And so I kind of spread a big spotlight on that so that we can then start shifting and doing things differently. So that is how people can get in touch with me. I also have a YouTube channel that they can follow, but it doesn't have nearly as much content as I would like at this point. But yeah, school is the best way.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Liz, for being here, for sharing your expertise. And if you're watching this or listening to this on the podcast, show some love and give it a 5-star review and share it with your entrepreneur friends who hate sales. And if you want to develop friendship with sales, a partnership with sales so that you can date sales like you date money, then connect with Liz. The link to join her group is in the show notes. And you too can start selling from service because remember, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it's what you do with it. Hey, mompreneurs, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, please follow the show and share it with a friend who's rebuilding her finances after divorce. No spreadsheets, no restrictive budgets, only confidence to build financial freedom. Also, please drop a quick 5-star review so more moms starting over can find this. It lights me up to know this podcast is helping you. Inhale confidence, exhale scarcity. I'll meet you back on Tuesday for another episode. It doesn't matter how much money you have, it's what you do with it.